Six pack Lapadat, and I got my man Joey Flexx. Joey Flexx is in the building,
What's going on, fellas?
and we were just talking. So
Excuse the
USAPL
scruff.
Nets, just just
Yeah.
just catching up. There's a lot to unpack. USAPL Nets just came to a close. Want to talk about some of the highlight performances, some of the battles, some of the announcements around it. USAPL formula is going to be made. Some of the crossovers that are coming over. What that might mean, what you feel about why there's a shift, a momentum towards the IPF away from
Mhm.
USAPL by a lot of these big names. And I'm talking, this looks like an influx of a vast majority of the top end USAPL people seem to be coming over. And that's no exaggeration. If we run down the list, the amount of big
Yeah.
name people coming over, it's massive. And on the women's division in particular, it was already pillaged and brought over, but now it seems like the men are coming over. And I mean, Gabby and a lot of the women that stayed USAPL, well, they're coming over now too. I mean, it's a huge influx. Want to talk about that? We could talk about some of the future Rondell's particular situation where he's kind of a little more complicated, stuck in what you might do. I'll run down this situation,
Mhm.
but what you would think. I gave my opinion on what I think, but you could give what you think. How you feel about media, the social media, how the streams, the viewership. We were just talking offline about Pete Spence, mutual friend, had posted the numbers that are being indicated. If this is a surprise to you, and we got a lot to talk about, man. We got quite a bit to catch up into, as well as the Flex fam. Where do you think we should begin, sir?
I guess we could talk about sort of nationals. Just a little bit about that, the implications for, and then that can kind of like tie into people transitioning over. Um, Wherever you want to go from there, we don't have to go. We could just talk about like, so obviously like, if you look at everything that happened at the meet, I think, and I always try to compare everything. What's weird about powerlifting is like in like combat sports, everything that you do, you're going head up with somebody else. There's somebody right there in front of you. And a lot of lifters at this meet that didn't have direct, like their threat was like right in front of them. They had like the best meets that you they could ever ask for, right? Coming back from Worlds, a 2-to-1 lift, what, like I'm just like traumatized from it. I'm like, it's not good. Like it could not be good. Like any lift that passes 2-to-1 has the potential to be taken away. And it literally felt like almost 60-40 that it would get taken away. You know what I mean? There was a couple that stayed. So there's a little bit of, also when you're going against somebody, you don't know their top end fully as well as they're going to know it, or their coach or whatever. So unless you're the biggest deadlifter, you might have to hold back a little bit because missing a lift could put you in a really bad position. And I do absolutely can tell you that one thing that there is, the mental. I don't know if you saw Joe Pyfer fight yesterday, but he was saying he was really afraid of his opponent. He was very afraid of his opponent, and he respected the shit out of them, and he was extremely nervous going into that fight. Um, he got the dub, but that is a thing. So imagine when, and I'm going to tie this into everything. What happens when you beat Conor McGregor? What does that do for your career, right? Right? If
You
Conor
blow up,
McGregor's
yeah.
at you, yeah, if that guy is at your meet and you beat him head up, that is very life changing. I'm gonna be honest. Um, if Taylor went 9 for 9 at Worlds and hit everything to his maximum strength and everything was technically solid, he was probably the strongest guy, right? I would say so, maybe. Cali, if we max out his deadlift, I don't know, because I think Taylor missed 2 lifts, and that really just opens the door, right?
Right.
Cali beating Taylor was very, very, very life changing for Cali. Like it was extreme. His following exploded. He gets into Sheffield now. He's this. He Cali has such good engagement to follower ratio, right? It changed so much for him. And when that person is there, if you're nervous about it, it's almost like for some people, the thing that they want so much is right in front of them, and it almost freezes them. And a lot of the people that others were going against, they were not there. So that so in one aspect, not saying it's everything, you don't have you don't have that dynamic going on. So you can just kind of lift freely, and you're at home, right? I feel like this USAPL meet for the lifters that competed is a very home meet. Not too many of them were in like enemy territory. You know what I'm saying? When you're at Worlds, you could be in a fucking excuse my profanity. You could be in a country where they don't like you. You know what I mean? Not only that, I mean, we want to believe the refs aren't biased, but there could be a little bit of that going on. The crowd's maybe not cheering for you the way that you think, and that can mess with you. And it's just different. You're also using, an illegal bar, illegal equipment. The platform's kind of slippery. It's just different environment. Uh, we don't even have to like we've seen examples of people traveling and having outstanding performances, so we don't even have to say that it's the travel, but that is somewhat of a factor. So Austin hit his performance, and I don't know when he first totaled 800 kg, but when he did that, I don't know if it was that meet or the meet after, but one of those meets he like left a lot on the table, and I was thinking like, yeah, he's probably good for like 830s, 820s, something like that. He just didn't put it together on that day. So for someone who's like, keeping their ear to the ground, paying attention, it makes sense. I don't think this like you don't just he didn't just like 50 keys on this total. It was like no, it was there. Just had to get some mental things down and some refinements here and there, and he was able to put it together. The cool thing is he did break Taylor's total. Um, and now it will be interesting to see. And by far of all the performances, I think Rondell had a fantastic meet, but I think it's like just the energy that I was experiencing from that meet. I think Austin's definitely stood out. Um, Rondell did phenomenal. What's kind of weird, what kind of muffled it is like the guest lifter thing, like what is going on. I don't think it makes it any less like legitimate. I mean technically it's like, it was a guest lifter, but I still think he's totally capable of those weights. Um, I don't know how the illegal bar would play into his total. Maybe it would help, maybe it would get worse. I'm not sure. I don't think he had to cut too much, but it will be. I mean, honestly, man, like I remember him from 2018 Worlds, and
Mm.
I saw how strong he was then, and I was like, this guy's gonna be good. And I know his situation is like messed up right now, but he needs to get to that top level because I mean, transitioning into people moving over, and we'll talk about the 110s in a minute. A lifter of that caliber, I think, deserves to have the global eyes on him, right? And I think that is why we're seeing, such a transition. I I am trying to figure out, and just immediately when the split happened, one of the first sort of like predictions that we kind of thought about or had was like, well, if everything leads back to the world level, it will be extremely hard for a USA federation on its own to compete with that because you're competing against the world. And Australia already tried this, right? Didn't they already try this? There was like
Right.
some sort of split,
Yes. Yeah.
and granted, the machine behind USAPL is a little bit bigger than that one, probably quite considerably. And it exists, but it's like not really much of anything. And I think people lift in certain federations. Honestly, if I'm being straight up honest, it's either convenience or politics. That's exactly how I feel. That's literally just how I feel. And whenever you politicize something that previously didn't have that, I think it's a terrible thing. And I think it's an attempt to sway those that are impressionable in a direction when um when really you should just lay out like this is one path and this is what comes with it. This is another path and this is what comes with it. Here are all the facts. Choose the one you want. And if you're a top lifter, um, competing at Worlds comes with like a lot of benefits, right? Um, so yeah. I mean, that was a lot. I don't know if there's anything you want to hop into, and then
Yeah. Also, a couple things on that. So, in terms of doubling back to Austin, to your point, he hit 800 kilos in 2020. But
3 years
the
ago.
yeah, quite some time ago. But he had also suffered some injuries, so he got set back on these injuries
I believe
considerably.
he had surgery as well.
Yeah, it's been tough. And here's the thing: when you have guys, and this is what's catching up to Taylor. Taylor's 10 years older than Austin,
Yeah.
and what's catching up to Taylor now, in his mid 30s, Austin is mid 20s. When you're that size and you're shifting that kind of weight, I mean, there could be repercussions on the skeletal structure and
Yeah.
the whole nine. It's dicey. And I had Austin on the podcast previously, and I mean, this is what he's saying now. Who knows later on how he feels, but he didn't think he wanted to stick around super duper long and make a big, huge, long
At
push.
74s?
Period in powerlifting. He wanted to hit certain goals,
What year was
and then
this?
this is this year before USAPL Nat
I
started
bet all
after
that.
820.
I bet all that changed. I'm gonna grab tissues. Keep talking. I'm listening.
Yeah, yeah. But so we'll see how. Yeah, I mean, everything changes year to year. I remember having Taylor on, before long before 838.5, and Taylor was alluding to the same thing, thinking about I'm not going to have a whole lot more in me. Let's see what happens. So sometimes when you're in the middle of injuries or fatigue, this is how you might feel, but your feelings might change. Um,
But things change when you see the dollar signs.
I mean, well, here's so I want to touch on a bit of everything you had spoken on, from
Yeah.
views to crossovers to the Rondell situation. We'll get more into all of those. But um, to your point, yes, when he crosses over and Austin is crossing over, and he comes IPF, when he does worlds, and let's say if all of that goes with worlds and the whole experience with Eurosport and the numbers we talked about are absolutely fantastic. If he makes it to Sheffield, and you were at Sheffield, if he makes it to world games, if he gets tastes of all these experiences,
I don't think
and
he'll leave.
then it'll be very tough. Not only, like, certainly going back to USAPL is going to be very difficult to sell, but I mean, just leaving the sport period, you start checking yourself, be like, I could do one more, I could do one more, and keep it pushing. Very difficult, and things are trending bigger. Every year you've seen it, Joey, is getting from this worlds to last worlds is like, oh my God. And then from the views, it's insane what's happening right now.
What's interesting is Hack versus Gibbs in like 2016 had like at least 6 to 7 times the views of all the primetime sessions live at the same time live stream. That was like 7 years ago. Now you saw those videos that we posted in our story, 400,000 views. Granted, that's live views. It's probably on 20K. When Russ competes, I remember one nationals we had like 19K, which is already that's a lot, right? But afterward, but Sheffield was crazy, and I think the biggest thing is like I have been around the world and I've seen these things and I've experienced them. So when people, like you just said, it's a hard sell to go back to USAPL. If you experience Sheffield and go, "Yep, I want to go back to Nationals prime time," it's like I don't think anyone's gonna say that. You're gonna be like, "Wow, this feels like a greater purpose than myself, and I need to be there." Now, that's not to say that. I mean, it's an honor to compete in prime time, right? You had to earn it. You had to get to that point, and only like certain lifters get to do it. And I do think they are. Um, I do think when things are somewhat accessible, not only to like the top two people, it does help because people want to compete in those primetime sessions. Um, but I agree. It's like the way things are trending, things are growing. It's getting much bigger. Um, I worry about the status of planet Earth because whenever anything happens on a global stage, it can affect these athletic events, and I hope that everything on on Earth stays like safe so we can continue to experience them. I still think about the like what does the world look like in 2019 or 2020 if we don't get locked down, and that Sheffield does happen. You know what I'm saying? It would have just been Amanda and Russ, for me. How would that have changed things going forward? Um, but I also feel like it got delayed, and then when it did happen, that was actually phenomenal and perhaps for the better. I don't know. Maybe things happen for a reason, but that was honestly one of the most amazing experiences I've ever experienced, and I think I mean, every fan that I spoke to was like, "Yeah, I want to go to the next one." You know what I mean? They're regular people that they don't even lift, and they're like, "This was insane." Um, it's yeah. So I think those guys, once they get a taste of that, they're probably gonna stay. Granted, I don't know how old Ashton is. I don't know how old. I mean, Taylor's getting up there, right? Austin should have some time. What worries me is about the way Austin squats. It's very like explosive, and I mean, he complains about his knees sometimes, right? So we just gotta he has to manage that and just do it safely. And also he cannot let this 850 just be like that one meet that he did, and then everything was downhill after that. He has to keep going. He has to really hit what he truly could have hit at his next meet and continue to improve and all that stuff. And I think he's in a good position to do that. Um, but yeah, you absolutely don't want to be like a one hit wonder, like, oh, he just hit a one off and that was a fluke and never again. So I don't think he will. I think it'll be interesting to see what he does, but I do believe that this probably fires up the 83s quite a bit. I know that when Russ competes, he's going to hit something disgusting, and I am very excited for that. And I don't think people really realize it. Um, he's just on a different level. He's had so much time to just train, and we've had like all these hoops to jump through, and I think the USA team, when everybody's there, will be very interesting and probably very powerful. Going back to the 110s because that was also something that people were looking at. I love those guys are great, right? Austin, Bob, and Keenan, but I don't know how many times I can watch the same three guys go against each other and just be with, you know what I mean? I just interchange to get me like super duper excited. Now, it definitely didn't feel like, and here's the thing, right? When you're competing at nationals, I don't even know what they got in terms of top three or whatever. I don't even know like what are the stakes of Austin winning, or sorry, Ashton winning. What does he earn now that he wins that meet? You know what I mean? He has to literally leave the federation, go to another federation, and then we'll do another nationals. He has to do a random meet, and he has to do another nationals. And if those guys were competing in that situation, head up, that would be there's something on the line now, right? One of you is getting left behind. You know what I mean? If they're all in the same weight class, I think Bob might move up. Um, but if they're all in the same weight class, then it's like that's so insane that you have these three guys and one of them has to get left behind. Granted, we know Keenan's situation is like not the best, so he may not even be able to go over, which is unfortunate because I mean he's a phenomenal lifter. He's a solid guy. I don't think he did anything like super duper wrong that can't be like fixed with the conversation. Um, but it is what it is. And with him and Rondell, those are like two guys that definitely stand out that I believe should be competing at the world level. That they just have like paperwork problems, like just non character issues that are just preventing them from doing what they need to do and getting to where they need to go. So that's always unfortunate and that sucks. But I mean, it is what it is. Um, I I think Anatoly feels away. I'm gonna walk over here and press a button to turn the fan on while I talk. I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anatoly. I think Anatoly feels. I don't know if you saw that little reel that they put out, but he's ready to go and he's fired up. And I think him against Ashton, everybody's gonna watch that, right? That's what we need. And I don't think it's good for the sport necessarily. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. When you just have one person that's like miles away from everybody else, um, you're just kind of like, okay, that person's gonna win. Let's watch second and third, right? It's like it's weird. So I think it'll be good to see Ashton travel and go up with Anatoly, go head up with Anatoly. I think that'll be good for powerlifting. Um, like I said, it'd be interesting if Bob went 105. That would be like, oh shit, like I said, someone might get left behind, but it probably makes sense just for their camp for him to like split and go up to 110. I think it should be a pretty easy layup for him. Um, should be right. You still got to do it, and I think, yeah, I don't know. I think back to the 83s, and when the only people that hit 800 was John Hack, Gibbs, and then Russ, and then I did it with Sean. and then now like a lot of them can hit it, right? Like it's like a common thing. Um, so I wonder if what's going on in the 74s, you know, that 820, 830 barrier gets broken, then just you start seeing a lot more guys do it. Um, that weight class, I think the sport is going to trend more towards like you need a specific frame to be dominant in a class. Like in the NFL, the best players at positions, they're a certain size, they have certain limb lengths, they have certain. You always have anomalies here and there, but you're going to have to be like 5'7" and under. You're going to have to walk around with this weight naturally. You're going to have short arms and short femurs, and there's where the sport is gonna like super heavyweight women. You're gonna have to be a big girl, and men. You're gonna have to be just a big person, like big bones, big frame. You know, it's gonna trend in that direction, and I don't think we're gonna see. Um, like I don't know what Tony Cliff. I don't know his like. I don't know if he cuts weight. I don't know if he's just 120 or what. But we might see a world where he's gonna have to be 280. He's gonna have to cut down if he and because he's going to compete against a guy who's shorter than him, much shorter than him. That just is not is some like a Samoan guy or something that's like just fills out that class like crazy. You know what I mean? So and then like you'll see the Rays and the Jesuses. Like if you're not that body type, you're just not even going to be in the conversation. So I think the money comes in, the viewership comes in, the opportunity comes in, and we're starting to see more of these companies come up because they see the eyes that are on those events. Gymshark's getting involved and they're really big, right? They do sports outside of lifting as well. They work with a lot of mainstream people. And I think that is just going to make things more competitive. And it's going to be like there's just going to be a huge gap between these are the top, 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 and this is like the upper echelon, and this is the pinnacle. And then there's going to be like 98% of people below, maybe like 88% of people, and then you have like 10% that's like, they might be able to break out into that top, top, top percent. And it's going to be something that like, yeah, of course you're going to have your freaks that come out of nowhere. But if you're not putting in years, so if I could talk about Devin, who I believe you had on, and Ken. I mean, Devin had been with Mikey for like 4 years. I'd been working with Ken for 5 years, and it took them that long to become champion, right? Granted, Rondell couldn't technically lift, which opened the door, like as a
Well, he's not
yeah,
American though, so it wouldn't have
yeah,
take changed that they're champions.
exactly. So it's because it is a national thing, right?
Right.
So but in the UFC, they talk about I want to be a world champion in the UFC. They'll allow all the things, so there's not really like I don't know. It's kind of weird, but I mean, exactly. Devin, I think Devin, because if Bob is the only person between him and all those benefits that come at those big stages, right? Uh, they might take two people in his weight class. I think him and Bob being together, coming from USA, that could elevate Dev and motivate him. And if you take Bob and his level and Dev, and you put them together and they're constantly lifting against each other, I think Dev might rise to that a little bit more. You know what I mean? It's like you put two guys together, one guy's, ahead of the other one, and then the one that's behind kind of like just by nature of being next to him moves up a little bit. That could be completely totally off as well. I'm just like saying that. But Bob might not want to do every meet. He might have a bad meet. You never know. I mean, I still think it's like well within his capabilities to go probably 7 for 9 and still win. Um, maybe even 6 for 9. And I think that would be that'd be interesting because if you have two guys in the U.S. that are competing at nationals that are out totaling the world level, I believe that is a good case to take them both, right? I think so. That's how we do it here. Um, because it all goes based on the world level and like you might take first and second in one weight class because you could get that at the world level as well. So I don't know. I think the transition makes sense. I think these guys are just like I don't really know of anyone. I mean, you could let me know if you know of anyone who is beyond the level of nationals and should be competing at the world level that's choosing to stay at the national level. I can't think of anyone. If you can think of some people, please let me know. But
Well,
in
I
my opinion,
mean, yeah, we'll have to see it unfolds. Let me unpack a couple items here.
go ahead.
So, I want to touch on Bob versus possible Devin. That's because I did have Devin on, and
Mhm.
he said, yeah, he said, look, there's a bit of an asterisk on my win because Rundell was a guest lifter. And then I said, sir, you're a U.S. national champion. Rundell's not
Yeah,
American. Your
yeah,
title is secure. That doesn't matter. So
yeah,
then he's like, oh, that's true. But also, if Devin hit 950 and Devin put on like damn near 50 kilos to his last total, if Devin is around 960 something, and we're talking about for anyone listening, Devin won the 120s at USAPL, a bit of a raw nats, a bit of an upset, but he took the title and is
execution. Yeah,
humming and hawing, yep, about possibly coming over to the Powerlifting America. Bob Matthews lost to Ashton in the 110s, came in second, and is thinking about going 120 for Powerlifting America and trying to go to IPF Worlds. Now, if Devin puts 10 kilos on his total, which is obviously possible, he put on damn near 50. If he puts 10 kilos on his total and he's in the 960s now, Bob Matthews weighed in at 105 and change at USAPL Nets. He's
yeah,
not going to be a full 120 or even anywhere close to that. He might
yeah,
put on some kilos, but it's going to be minimal. So his total, which is 960 range, isn't going to shoot up through the moon in the first 5 months of being a 120. So when we look at
yeah,
that, Devin and Bob are actually extremely close. When Bob
yeah,
shows up, Devin can actually apply pressure, and Bob has to have a good day. Bob cannot drop. If Devin goes 960 something, Bob has to PR, as a matter of fact. If Devin puts a little over 10 kilos on his total, and we're talking about a guy who did 950, 10 kilos is nothing. If he just goes 10 kilos and change more, he will force Bob to have the day of his life to win. Nothing short of the day of his life. And for people saying, well, of course, Bob will have the day of his life. He's moving up a weight class. He weighed in at 105. He's not going to put on 15 kilos in 5 months or whatever, many months we're away.
some lifts
It's a good fight.
also some lifts also they don't get better the more weight you gain. Like deadlift can go to shit, and like that's a very real thing. Um, I think Bob, I if Bob goes 120 and he actually like tries, I'll be shocked if he doesn't hit like at least 980. Just looking at his database right now, let's say he weighs like 112, 111. Yeah, I will be very surprised if he doesn't hit at least like 980 at least. I'm sure he would feel the same way. Uh, but again, Devin has time, and I was talking to Mikey, and Mikey he works for me. He also coaches Devin, and he was just saying that Devin's progression has been like very consistent and almost like Callie, how he was improving like crazy every meet, and um, which Bob has been doing well too. He had a 952, then he had a 937, then he had a 960. Granted, the circumstances are going to be different for each one of those. Um, and I know that I'm not just one of those people that looks at a number and goes, "Oh, look what you did." It's like no, like you have to watch the meet, you have to look at the second attempt, you have to figure out like what really happened. There's like a lot of factors that go into it. Um, and yeah, I think, I mean, Bob should still like be ahead, but like I said, all it takes is you have a meet where I mean, maybe the ref's just not good to you that day, right? Something could happen. You never know. You get to another country and you just can't get food. You can't get food. You know what I mean? There's like other things that can happen. And I think when you're that it's just one guy, it's like you gotta at least try because anything can happen. And I've seen it happen a million times. Mikey has beat Ashton before. Ashton was the stronger lifter, but Ashton went for the gold and he missed, and that opens the door. Anything can happen. There could be all kinds of things that can happen to open the door. Granted, we know that Ashton is a stronger lifter, and Bob, like I said, between Bob and Dev, Bob is stronger, and I think Dev would agree. He's also way lighter. He's a good amount lighter, right? But you never know. You never know. So
Yeah, if
I think it's worth it to for I think it's worth it for Dev to at least try. I'll let you say what you're gonna say, but then I just want to touch on one more thing that I experienced at nationals last year.
Yeah, yeah. I'll touch up on this. We'll close this topic. I also want to
Uh-huh.
double back to Ashton, Anatoli, and blah
Yeah,
blah blah. Dive into
yeah,
that. Let's. But to your point, I 100% agree that look, Bob's going to be the favorite, and I think I have an enormous amount of confidence and and respect for Bob, and I think he is a special talent. But
yep,
100% agree with you that Devin is close enough, and this is sports where this isn't a crazy Hail Mary pass.
yeah,
This is show up, put together your very best day, and you are within the range. If you're within 10
yeah.
kilos, and he is right now, then play. Show up and play. Don't avoid. You're in there. In terms of sorry, we'll get to your point, then we could double back to the
No,
Ashton.
I was just gonna say, what were we talking about? Oh, one thing that I did not like about last nationals in 2022 was, I'm somebody who, for so many years, we were connected to the IPF, and you fight for your life at nationals, and you earn a spot on the world team. That's how it was, among other things. When that went away, and it was like, congratulations, Russ, you won again. Here's $1,000. Goodbye.
So
I
is that
hated that. I hated that. It's
let's
different
hang on
now.
this topic then. Let's hang on this topic before we do Ashton
Yeah.
versus Anatoly then. Is this why Russ talked about it about why he's coming to the IPF, but and some people else have come on this podcast and talked about it as well. But is that a major factor you think that people are after nationals not having that void field that world's had?
Well, I know some lifters are not having that void filled because I've seen them post about it. Especially some of the girls that are more vocal. They'll say, "I won, and like I don't know what to do with myself now. Like, what do I do with my existence?" You know what I mean? It's like I hated that, and I'm sure USAPL is going to work to try to like fulfill that, but I think it's going to take time and it's going to be extremely hard to like once you go to worlds and you feel that sorry, I'm getting over sickness. Once you feel that, you feel what it's like to represent your country. You feel what it's like to just be a part of something that makes you feel special like that. Like it doesn't matter if somebody in another country totaled more than all of you there because more people care about this one. More people are looking at this one. You know what I mean? And you really feel that. And it's I don't know, like I could sit here and say all that I want, and USAPL does a really good job of making the lifters that are experiencing that nationals feel like this is amazing thing, and like, oh man, is like so hyped. And it's like, yeah, that's good, and they're doing the best that they can. But 100 people in the room cheering for you is not 2,100 people in the room cheering for you with the craziest production you've ever seen. And it's gonna be there's more. We're on TV now at Worlds. There's the money is just increasing every time. Like it is I could sit here and say like once you guys feel that you're not going to want to ever do anything else, but I think it's better if people just like try to experience it, right? You're going to experience that and you're going to be like, wow. I also understand that maybe some people, I'm a very ambitious person. I like to shoot for the stars. I like to think bigger, better. How like impossible goal, let's try it, right? Before Jesus did what he did, no, it was impossible, right? Ray was an impossible task. Russ doing what he's doing is impossible. Keiko, da da da, right? But you do these things and you start to realize that you have to think that way. I think people maybe they're thinking smaller. They think, oh, I have no place at that level, or I'll never get there, or you know, they just don't feel like they can have an impact at that level. But there are many lifters at the world level or just in the mix of the international scene. They're ranked like fifth, sixth, whatever, but they have an online presence. They might not even be top 10. They might be they have an online presence. They might be a very good junior. They're building momentum in ways that they can because there's just so many more people looking at them. And I don't know. I mean, I could sit here and say believe in yourself and shoot for the stars is all I want, but it doesn't mean people are gonna like actually want to do it or do it. So I don't know. I mean, you've been there, Ryan. You know how it is. You've been all over the place. You kind of have experienced the big stages, and you know what it's like. And I think Sheffield will continue to be better. And the way that I look at this game is you never know when your last meet is going to be. You never know like when your body might fail you, and it would probably hurt so much to look back on your career and be like, damn it, if I would have competed in the IPF this year, I could have gone all the way and I missed out on this opportunity because I let somebody get in my head or politics or whatever. And I could have experienced XYZ because when you're done and you cannot beat time, right? You cannot beat time. Time will get you eventually. It gets everyone. Nobody can escape. And when it comes for you, you want to be able to say, I'm very happy with what I did. I went all the way. If you don't like the IPF, you can come back, right? You don't have to stay there, but try it out. At least you kind of have experienced everything. And I can't wait to see. There was a lot of people, and I remember this when the split happened. They threw so much dirt at the IPF, and now they're coming over.
It's gonna be awkward.
And it's
Oh
just
boy.
like, I mean, but it's just like I get it. Maybe it's out of the spirit for wanting change or what's better for the sport, but it's like I just hated that time. I didn't want like it. It was just an uncomfortable time to be a part of lifting, and it wasn't good. I don't think it was good for the sport. And now you have such a divide. Like there's kids that probably don't even know about any of the world stuff. Like they don't even know. It's like hidden from them. You know what I mean? Um, but I think these next 2 years, it won't be like there's no escaping it. And with the changes that are coming and the doors that are going to open up, I'm very excited to see the energy that's poured into um, the global side of things because I just think that is where the future lies, and that is how we break through to new plateaus. And I always say when I'm at international meets, dude, the love, the respect, the I feel like this is my purpose, and I'm doing what I should be doing with my life. You know what I mean? Like that I don't feel that when I'm in the States. I just you're reminded of the impact that you have on Earth. I had I forget what message it was, but it was somebody. I posted it in my story. I don't know where my phone is, but I just want to give this guy his flowers. He took one of my like educational workshops, and he said something to me, just like the first part of it. He said he's from Vietnam. That's crazy. I didn't even know anybody in Vietnam knows who I am. And he woke up at 1:30 a.m. to participate. And to me, it's like, dog, like I don't know. It's so crazy to me that we're all humans. We are all different in our own ways. We have our own cultures. I promise, like their culture is probably very different from my culture, right? But through lifting, through the internet, we can come together and communicate and share experiences. Dude, going to Worlds and meeting Funga and meeting Carl and seeing Fuji and seeing all those different guys from all those different places and meeting Sunita. I mean, I'm good, man. I don't need nothing. Like that's all it's about. That's all. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all I need. So, and I'm sure you feel the same way when you travel and people are like, "Yo, what's good, Ryan?" Da, 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 this and that. So, yeah,
It's I wanted to ask you. So
love
with
it.
the Anatoly and Ashton situation, I was a little shocked. We don't get a lot out of Anatoly. For people who don't know, SBD dropped the video about Sheffield, and it's kind of a little surprising because Anatoly in this video that looks like, I mean, it's time to hype Sheffield. Anatoly being the 105 world champion,
Yep.
and Ashton having won the battle of the 110s at USAPL, weighed in at 105 and some change, announced he's coming to the IPF. So that clash, that collision
When did he
collision
announce
course
it?
is going to happen. Yes, he did. And that
What
is
he did?
going
Okay.
to happen, and it's official. And Anatoly on that video is saying, like, actually, you don't get this much from Anatoly. he's throwing some shots, sporting, okay, not personal shots, whatever. But he's saying, look it, hitting standards when you're staying at home is entirely different when you're traveling abroad. Let's see what happens when he clashes at Worlds. He's essentially inviting the challenge and looking forward to it. And while on the surface level, well, he's going to Sheffield, and Ashton's not going to be at Sheffield, at least not this one coming up.
What they
So
sneak him in?
but no, but I think though it does actually make the hype for Sheffield because now everyone's going to want to watch and
Watch
see what
that.
Anatoly does. What does Anatoly put up? What total does he put up? They're going to be comparing it to Ashton. Can he start closing the gap against Ashton? And that's like a preview to the clash that's going to happen in, conceivably anyways. Let's see what happens at the 105s of PA. But were you surprised that Anatoly, when asked about Ashton, was actually taking shots? And then Ashton obviously fired back and actually said correctly, my friend, I traveled to South Korea, the other side of the world, to battle Keenan. I've traveled and put up. He's not unaccustomed to it, and he's right. But this
Yeah,
is a
but
good showdown.
I've been at that meet and it's different
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
because like
That's not worlds. I mean,
people,
it's not going to be the
people,
same level
yeah,
as the world
it's not. It's
championships for
not.
sure.
Not only is it not the same level. I mean, Ashton might go up to lift, and there might be a judge in that seat that goes, "I just don't like you." It's just different, man. There's adversity. There's other things that happen at Worlds that you cannot foresee. There are some countries that we've been in. Trying to calculate
Do you
some
think
numbers
that's
right here.
really happening? That people judges like, I don't like you, so I'm going to give you a red light?
Not really, but I have seen calls that made me think that. So I mean, it's
Well,
all the
that
same,
that
right?
that's not an IPF thing.
Yeah.
That's a human thing, though. If people do that, that's a
Yes.
human
Thank you for
thing.
clarifying that. Thank you for
Yeah, yeah.
clarifying that. I mean, but we see it in every sport, right? We see it in, basketball, football, baseball, whatever. Um, like anything can happen. So you just got to go there and you just got to go there and try it, man. I think, like I said, Ashton as well. Hey, let me pull up his stats. He should be able to,
Did that
um,
surprise you though that Anatoly was like we don't hear much from Anatoly, and for me when I see that video and a lot of people like, oh
I don't know
wow,
where that came from, but honestly, that's respect to Ashton.
yeah.
In my opinion, I don't know if other people feel that way, but I think it's respect to Ashton. Hold on, what the
Oh yeah,
fuck did I do to my Apple?
when the world champion going to Sheffield uses his time
Calls you
to
out, he just
speak on,
elevated
yeah,
you. Yeah.
that 100%. He sees you as a threat. He knows you're coming. I mean, and this is what hypes Ashton coming over. The worst would be Ashton comes over and no one says anything, and it gets no attention at all. That's the worst
That
possible scenario. It's like,
I was talking
what?
to Russ about this. I was like, Drake addressing Joe Budden elevates Joe
I
Budden.
seen that, dude. Okay, look at not to get too derailed off topic, but holy smokes, that was
Go ahead, go ahead.
fire.
That was
But
crazy.
yeah, that was fire.
That's good for like the industry and you get your little drama or whatever. But
Yeah, we'll put a pin in that though. But let's
yeah,
not get
yeah, yeah.
off topic. But yeah, I don't know. I think the battle of the 105s and Anatoly addressing Ashton is what all these world champions should do when you have a USAPL crossover and people are getting heat. You know they're coming. Invite them over just like Anatoly and don't shy away because it's coming.
I'm looking at Ashton's numbers on the database, and Ashton has done enough above 840 to lead me to in the proper weight class to lead me to believe that he should
940, you
be
meant to
like
say. But yeah, yeah.
yes 940. He should be the super duper favorite.
The super
Um,
duper
the
favorite.
super duper favorite. You just gotta, you know, um. Now this is the thing, right? Looking at his last meet, he opened at 335 and then jumped 371. That's a record, I believe, because the chip. Um, at Worlds, if anything goes wrong and you don't get that second attempt, then somebody like a Mikey can come in and snipe you. You know what I mean? Um, so they have to just be careful of that. Delif, I feel like should be okay to kind of get away with that. But when everything is on the line, just like a small. He might hit it. He might hit the weight, but he didn't convince the judges enough. And Ashton, the way he squats, he's very like he has really big thighs. So look, it might hit depth, but to the untrained, to like someone who's not very versed at watching him lift, they might not see that, right? So let's say he doesn't get that squat. So now he has to take it again, and he's gassed a little bit. So you got to take it again, and it's like now you got to sink it, and he could do it. I see one of his meets here. He missed 355, and then he came back and got it. So he's capable. He's absolutely capable of doing it. It's just it's extremely risky at that level. If anything goes wrong, like I said, you're dealing with these other refs. They're from different countries. I actually heard, and Ryan, you could, I don't know if you've heard anything about this, um, but one of my girls, Alba, the way that she benches now, we changed her technique a little bit. If you know the rules, she's not heaving. She is not heaving because the bar does not go back down after she gets the press command, but she does use her hips to press. And to some refs, they might see that as, even in other languages, when you translate the rule, it's different than what it means like literally in English. So they may interpret it differently. So you get like you might see things like Ashton's elbow might touch his thigh and like it might, cause some issues. So it's just you just got to be really careful with that stuff. But like I said, Ashton has done 850 like a billion times under the weight class, and
950.
he should 950. God, the eights and
It's
the
okay. I
nines.
do the same
So
thing. I got
so
you.
um he should be the super duper favorite. But going back to something I coined recently, I was talking to one of my coaches, Camden, about this. Anatoly has his world championship swag now, right? And that's what people need to understand. He has the world championship riz. So he is going to be like, okay, everybody's coming for me. I'm the champ. I'm going to start taking shots now. You know what I mean? And that is kind of good for the sport. You know what I'm saying? And that's probably why. I don't know if they egged him on to get him to say that. They probably said, like, what do you think about this lifter? And then he just gave that answer. But I think it's good for the sport. That I'm gonna watch. That's my weight class. I'm gonna watch them, and I'm gonna be very excited to watch them. Um, the women's side is gonna be exciting as well. Really excited for the women's side. I think the 69 class, whatever Leah and Gabby and Gara are all competing under. I know I'm missing names. That is gonna be crazy, right? You have the storyline of like Leah's the OG. She's put up these massive totals, but then you have the Italian girl coming up and like she's got all this momentum right now, but Leah's the bigger deadlifter. And then you have Gabby coming over, and how's Gabby gonna fit into the mix? Are we gonna see a 570? Are we gonna see a 580? I think we could see a 580. I think we could see a 575. You know what I'm saying? And Leah's gonna be pushed to her absolute limit. And like, can she overcome, all the adversity? And like, she's actually gonna have to take a third deadlift now. And like, and Leah's gonna fight for that, and you're gonna have these two girls that want it so bad. You know what I mean? They're gonna want. I know I bring my tissue up like every 5 minutes, but I'm dying.
That's
I've been
okay.
on this. I've been on this damn Tylenol all day. But it's gonna be crazy to watch that, and I was super excited for that. I think the 76 women is also gonna be interesting. I may maybe bring some people over. You know what I mean? Um, working on Crandon right now, trying to get her right. And I think her
What
potential is so amazing, man. And she
what
has
would be her
this like,
holdout?
so it's just like life circumstances. She did a lot of moving around, just like non-powerlifting things. She has some little injuries here and there. After our meet, I kind of gave her like, you know, gave her a little break, and she just had a lot going on. But right now, like, we're communicating really well. She's sending me her training. She's building momentum, and she has, when you meet her, she has like, not only is her lifting like super inspiring and her energy that she brings, but when you meet her in person, like her energy as a person is like almost like Russ, where you just, this guy's special. You know what I mean? Like she's just got this like charisma. Um, everybody loves her. Like, it's anything that she does, she's gonna be like successful at. And every day I wake up and I think to myself, I'm so thankful and lucky that I get to work with like these amazing, inspiring individuals. Um, like, I look forward to the day. Like, if let's say we decide to go 76, we don't know where we're going right now. We're gonna figure it out. So that 69 class might get even spicier. Um, let's say she goes 76 and she's a full 76, right? So let's say we cut from like 78. That is going to be a lift or and a meet that is going to be one for the ages. You know what I mean? And that gets me fired up and that motivates me to like, and when I see the Olympic channel, for example, and I see like 400,000 views in Keiko's session, I'm like, dog, we're in the right place.
So, okay, let's hang here for a
You know
second.
what
I
I
want to
mean?
stay here for a
Yeah.
second, okay? And then I want to go back to the best performances of like were percolized with the greatest of all
Mhm.
performances, that kind of discussion a little bit. I don't need your top five off the spot, but just like
Yeah.
how you feel about it. But let's talk about, oh my gosh. So Pete Spence shared it. I reshared it. The views on the Olympic channel of IPF Worlds reaching over 400,000. That's almost 500,000 people watching powerlifting. That's
Yeah.
on the Olympic channel YouTube. That doesn't even touch on Eurosport reach on television stream. Um, and then you look at Pete Spence
We got some
also
stats
shared
here. Yeah,
non
go ahead, go
non
ahead.
non IPF related views in the last 2 years, 66,000. Now, if you want to throw in half Thor's kind of, I mean, I don't know if people, that's kind of like when he did a powerlifting meet, it was like 100 and some odd thousand. But,
Mm.
anyways, in terms of actual powerlifting competitions people sign up for, whatever, in the usual powerlifting schedule, it is not even remotely close when it comes to attention and whatnot in terms of IPF and other federations.
Now I haven't looked
Are
at
are you
this. This
surprised?
oh go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry, I was going to ask you. Are you surprised by this
A little
now?
bit
Not
because
just recent. Yeah.
I didn't know I like you tell me Olympic channel, I'm like, oh that's cool. I didn't know it was gonna be like that. They're making some money from that. 400,000 views on a YouTube video is like that's a good amount of money. So um I don't know how like uh I don't know how like accurate this is, but I think the source is pretty accurate. Anatoly session is sitting just over 100,000 views. Ashton, Bob, and Keenan together combined was 14,000. So I mean, there's
That
just the
was
world.
listen,
Yeah.
that was an absolutely phenomenal showdown.
Hmm.
Crazy showdown that nobody knew who was going to win. The biggest stars of the biggest
And
stars.
then you have
When
a
I look at
blowout, and it
it,
gets yeah,
you have a blowout in Anatoly,
and it
and it
gets all the
gets
views. Yeah.
it's six figures. This is what I'm talking about, where people, I think, greatly underestimated the global market and how many people eyeballs are coming globally.
Two things. One, I'm like, we are strictly trying to say that the platforms in which these lifters are being displayed on are not on the same level in terms of viewership. And Ryan's point is he's explaining that showdown, Bob Ash and Keenan, for us powerlifting nerds, is definitely like, oh shit, let's pay attention to that more. You know what I mean?
100%.
Versus also the time zone was not the best for. I think when we were lifting at Worlds, Tina was able to watch us, but it was like either super early. I think it was like super early in the morning or something like that. Um, but it was not like the best for Anatoli's session. Uh, I mean, they were also in the morning, so the times were like kind of similar.
For
But basically,
American,
we're just
not the
trying to,
best. For
yeah, we're just
American,
trying
now,
to,
this is what we're
we're,
starting to see. There's
we're
more,
just trying
there's
to
a global
emphasize
viewing.
that, yes, it has nothing to do with like this guy being more popular than them. They have way more followers than Anatoly does combined, obviously. But the global platform is very significant, and it will be interesting to see what happens. It might just be like 115,000. You just combine it together, and that's all we get. But it's still like I think it'll be very interesting, and just the energy that I get when I'm at Worlds is like everybody's asking me about Russ, everybody's asking me about who's coming next, da, 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 this and that. The next thing that I was gonna bring up is escaping me. Did you lead off with the question there?
Yeah. So,
Um,
well, first off, I was just asked. So, because I do eventually want to ask about performances and how you think they stack up all time,
yeah,
and Rondell as well, and then kind of get into Rondell situation. But in terms of this, previous to the split and when the split was happening and when people were talking how this might unfold, is it surprising to you that, wow, this really became a very one-sided affair when it comes to like where the powerlifting community shifted their focus? And, in the last 2 years, new people have entered the powerlifting community in the last 2 years since the split. And these new people are being reached by the IPF, it would seem, due to Sheffield, due to alliances with the Olympics and the Olympic channel. Look, I'd already said this. People like, it's dumb what the IPF's doing in terms of trying to get in the Olympics. It's a waste of time. It's never going to happen. And
you gotta try. Like,
well,
why not
hang on
try?
one sec though. But more than just that, yes, you have to try, but more than just that, even if you never get in the Olympics, it's short-sighted if they don't see in pursuit of that, you have access to the Olympic channel. You have access to Eurosport due to being affiliated. You have access to these government-run programs in terms of like sponsorships, in terms of the Asian Games, Euro Games, and all of these the university games and all these global multi-sport events. Even if you never make it to the Olympics, World Games, even if you never get in the Olympics, those doors open due to the pathway you've chosen. And people fell short on viewing that. And the Olympic channel YouTube is
I
a
remember what I
perfect.
was gonna say now. Russ choosing Federation was strictly a call. It was just a business decision based on what we thought and what he had experienced. But once we saw, it was like when the split happened, the IPF was like, all right, let's turn it up a notch. And after he saw that and Sheffield and all that, then he was like, all right, this is where the eyes are. You know what I mean? Granted, I don't think it's only a business decision. Well, that's why he stayed back. But I think it kind of reminded him of the significance of that legacy and collecting those world championships and cementing your name in time. Um, I mean, you could pull up world championships, and sometimes I'll see names, and I'm like, "Who's that Kjell guy? Damn, he's won a lot. Where did he come from? Oh, like, damn, that must have been a crazy era. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of different reasons to want to lift where you want to lift. But like I said, like I could sit here and gas up the IPF all day, or people could just like see it and experience it. And I think a lot of people, when they haven't experienced it, they like to bash it or say things about it, but they have never experienced it. Because, and I think part of that also just humans, right? Imagine you're wrong. You spent all this energy trying to put something down that you wish you were a part of, and that thought is too hard for you to accept, so you would rather shit on it because it can help you sort of live in this delusional world where this higher goal um is not as special as you want it to be. You know what I mean? How much would I respect a guy? Let's say you have a guy who's an amazing lifter and they're enhanced, and they come to you 10 years down the road and they say, my biggest regret. Let's say, okay, do you know how many people are going to have regrets if powerlifting did get into the Olympics? Now, what if we don't get into the Olympics, but we get to a level that is just as life changing, right? I don't know. I think I'm not trying to like, I'm just trying to dissect the idea of I've never experienced anything in the IPF yet. I think it's shitty. Well, try it out, see how it is. You can't knock it till you try it, right? So I don't know. I'm not saying the IPF is perfect. I'm saying, to me, I don't really see where there could be more opportunity for someone who is putting their body on the line, breaking their joints and their back, over years, um, than to pursue something that great. And it makes me happy that these lifters are coming over, not because they're leaving USAPL, but because they too can experience that level. They too can experience, what it is like to feel the happiness that I felt when Carl got his last deadlift. Feel the happiness that I felt when, after what happened with Keiko, we came Capo, we came back and got it right. I don't even know what's going to happen when Russ is back. I might lose it. You know what I mean? Um, some of my best memories are like, I remember 2019 Nationals, I finished Worlds with Russ and I was by myself. Everybody was leaving. We were done. The meet was over, and I was on the train going home, and I was like, man, we did it. We did it, man. We overcame the mountain, that was Mr. Gibbs at that time. It was it just felt like such an accomplishment, and it was such an amazing time to be a part of the sport. It was just incredible. And like I said, I could sit here all day and tell you guys how great it is, or you could try it out for yourself. And you could see what I've seen, and you might have a change of heart. The way that Jesus, Keiko, Delaney, Amanda, Callie, Sonita, the way that their lives have changed pursuing this is worth fighting for. It's worth fighting for, and I'll just say that. And then we go into top five or whatever you want to throw at me.
Let's do the top five. That's exactly what I want to do. So Austin Perkins did a phenomenal 851. And the debate arose afterwards. Where does this rest in terms of the greatest performances of all time? So we have in this discussion, and I mean, obviously, off the top of your head, I'm not going to make you do a top five or whatever, but just brief
Yeah, it's
overview.
tough. It's
Obviously,
tough.
obviously, Jesus is up there, Atwoods, but even just this, even if we streamline this discussion a little bit, there's that debate that because Atwood went first, and before Taylor did what he did with 838.5, nobody thought this was conceivable when he came
Yeah.
along and he took IPF good lift points formula, Wilks formula, and Dots formula, and best tested or untested with his total, and essentially became the undisputed pound for pound king.
So
Beating,
are we saying for that era and the time that they hit it, which is more significant, or are
yeah,
we
which was
saying
more impactful?
at this
Let's
moment, which is better?
no. Well, at this moment, it's Perk because it just by the numbers
It's a bigger
alone,
number. Yeah.
right? But this is where it gets a little. There's no right and wrong answer, by the way.
Yeah.
This is the good old sports debate. But
Yeah.
who impacted more due to it? And there's some caveats. Perk, literally though, everything I just said about Taylor true, but Perk also totaled more than the 83 kilo world record. On the flip side, obviously Russ and like
Hasn't
Atwood would
competed in a
say,
million
listen,
years. Yeah.
yeah, Taylor would say, but Russ was there when I had to do it. If Russ wasn't there, Taylor actually would have had also the world record in
Yeah.
83, but Russ was there. And then so that would be like, that's not totally fair because Russ wasn't there due to political stuff, whatever, this year. So he's like, that's kind of, but then Perk and his followers could say, yeah, but you can't credit something that didn't happen. So he wasn't there. So you can't automatically say he would have done more than this. So there is no right. It's not clear. It's not clean.
Yeah.
It's a good
I
old
think
fashioned
I think
sports
all these
discussion.
like wasn't there, he was there, whatever, that's gonna go away soon because we're all gonna be back together again. And I think the efforts of trying to ignore the significance of the world side is kind of futile when your lifters are going over there because the audience that you're trying to garner is now going to literally see it, right? Um, so you're asking me, are we just talking about Perk and Taylor, or are we talking about everybody? Like,
Just period. Like your thoughts on it. Period.
well,
Because it did
also,
spark discussion. Where does it? What it was for sure meaningful. It's for sure an all time great performance. Where do you think it rests? Because it was a special performance.
well, you're asking me, and I've been around a while. There are guys like Jesse Norris who I think are still like,
Oh yeah.
you're not going to touch that guy, right? Um,
Well, that's another one that's like a
at
difficult
the
one to
time,
place.
at the time, nothing of this earth at that time compares to what Jesse was doing. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it
It doesn't make
because he
sense.
only ever competed as a junior. He only ever competed as a junior, and he was hitting the numbers that he was hitting. He was like this force of nature. He was a killer. He didn't complain. He didn't argue. It didn't matter. You know what I mean? Um, he was just bulldozed his way through. There used to be this meet back in the day. It was called Raw Unity, and at that time, tested or untested didn't matter. They had the best lifters from all over. with any kind of presence, compete at one meet, and Jesse was in the mix with those guys who were, untested. Now, I guess I'll just speak on things that I've been a part of or my era, I guess. I'll leave Jesse out of it because it's kind of hard when you've grown up with something to say that anything like we're always going to be like biased to our roots, right? Gibbs may have done something that you feel is super insane. Where does Austin, let's say, just where does Austin's fit? Um, I put him. I think about Jesus's performance. I don't care about points. I really don't give a shit about points. I'm just telling you, like, I don't. If I have to care about it because I'm in a meet with my lifter and they're like something on the line or at Sheffield or something, then yeah, I'll pay attention to it. But me personally, that doesn't. I don't care, right? I really don't. Um, because you can't compare Perkins to Jesus. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, this man's lifting 1,000 pounds. You know. Um,
On a second attempt squat.
yes, in the spirit of what it is to be a power lifter, lifting the most weight, I'm trying to take my bias out of it. Um, I think Jesus's performance, because it was the first Sheffield, because on the stage that it was, because of the pressure, dude, the air was heavy. The air had like lightning in it. Like it was like his family was there. Like it was crazy. I still put Jesus' total as one of the most impressive performances of all time because it out totaled all of the untested guys. Perkins may have done that as well. I don't know. I'm not sure. Somebody let me know if he has. Um, but he became the strongest of the strongest of everything. Doesn't matter, right? And to me, being the super heavyweight, the true power lifters, like when you think of a power, you say the word, you think of a super heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? Um, he lifted the most weight like in existence, and to me, that is the most impressive performance. Um, I can't think of any like even when I look at the numbers on paper and I think about the training I did for him going up to that, I'm just like, that shit was perfect. You know what I'm saying? The only thing that could have made it better is if Ray was like 100% and we like barely beat him. That would have been like the craziest thing ever, right? Um, I put Perkins right under that. I put him
Over
right under
Taylor's.
that
So to answer your question,
because
Perkins
well,
does.
well, well, right now when Taylor did what he did, he's pressuring the class up, and that was like, oh shit. But I'm also been used to Taylor. I've been very used to Taylor. I've known Taylor for like many, many years. Um, I think if you go Jesus Taylor, no, Jesus Perkins Taylor, because like of where we are right now in history in this moment. But at the time that they did it, I think Jesus's performance was more significant than Taylor's at that time. I think Taylor's performance was the most significant that we had seen maybe since Ray hit his world record total. I could be off. I might be omitting someone. Everybody's impressive. Rondell's amazing. Da da da. But I think Taylor at that time. Now we're talking about right this moment. I would go Jesus, Austin, Taylor. I'm trying to think of two more. Um, I think Russ and I think me and Russ would both agree like 840 is not. That's a joke to him now. And I think Russ's next performance will get him up there. Um, I also think we might start to see a weirdness where an 83 kg lifter and a 74 kg lifter. I don't know if you could just take Austin and just make him keep all his proportions the same and make him an 83. Does it scale the same? And does like his total, you know what I'm saying? Like, does everything just work that way, or is being smaller actually put you at so much of a better advantage because you are, um, he would have to be like the same height but bigger. He would have to move up a weight class, and that I'm just trying to think like maybe. there like for formula, there's definitely some weight classes. I know I don't like formulas that are better, and I wonder if as a human, some sizes are just going to be better at lifting weights than others. In basketball, you just going to be better at dunking the ball if you're 6'2" and up. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Um, so these are things that I think about, but I think Russ's next performance will put him up there. I think Ashton is very impressive. I think Bob is very impressive. I think if Bob has his super meet, um, like 9 for 9, perfect day, like bulks up and cuts weight, does everything perfect, that could be also like a giga meet, like a meet that's like absolutely just not on this planet. Um, it's tough because Keiko's also very impressive to me, but there's a lot of 93s that like we're talking like no one can just miss a lift and catch you. If Perkins misses one lift, there's no 74 that's just gonna catch him, right? Like we don't know of any 74 that's like. I mean Taylor, if he gets his swag back, if he gets it back, I think he can do it. But yeah, I think top three. I don't feel too bad about those numbers. My next two, I'm trying to think of the women's side as well. Evie's performance was fucking crazy, man. Evie's performance might honestly, she might be better than everybody.
She's phenomenal. She's phenomenal.
Hers might be.
And
Go
feel
ahead, go
no
ahead.
pressure to do the whole top five, by the way, because you're on the spot. We had like time to prep and think about it. I just wanted as a
Yeah,
high ranging look at it. Um, look just to
I
add
think.
a little bit.
Go
Sorry, go
ahead.
ahead. Well, I was going to say with Jesse Norris, you had mentioned for anyone listening, Jesse Norris did 914 as a kilo total as a 90-kilo lifter in the USAPL back in 2014, almost 10 years ago. Still nobody even close in the 90-kilo class. And the reason why that has
Junior.
a bit of, yeah, and he was a junior.
Even
And
if you beat him, you can't go back in time.
it was a local level meet. I think they used pound plates and whatever. It wasn't like it was a national level, wasn't world international level. So it's a little. There's some caveats to it. However, that's insane. That's ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
just an absolutely crazy thing that a 90-kilo junior did that in the USCPL, no less. So yeah, if someone look at these lists, top five, someone could easily listen to the podcast and said, "I think you're wrong. How about this one?" And I could be like, "Yeah, yeah, you could
And I
talk me
don't
into
feel
Jesse
too bad
Norris."
about like omitting Russ from that list because if you ask Russ, he would tell you like I don't feel like I'm. He would say I don't feel like I'm like the greatest of all
Not in a
time or anything
single
like
one
that.
performance.
Yeah.
But here's what I
I
will
think
give
his
you,
impact.
Russ.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, here's what I would give you, like, because this is single one performances.
If we're talking about
But
most
it
impactful, like Taylor, Russ,
Yeah,
Ray,
exactly. In terms of
yeah,
like impact on the game or
John Hack, yeah.
longevity, who's like longevity or like placement within a particular weight class, like, oh my God, stay on top of one weight class over two different ways of generations of lifters like Russ has done. Like, yeah, these are different lists. There's so many different ways you could cut a list, right? So people change it. But anyways, it's a difficult one, man. And I could get
I do want
talked
to give
into.
Taylor flowers because he built up that weight class, and Austin beating it makes it super significant. But without Taylor, you know what I mean? Like you have to like Taylor's work in that weight class is what makes Austin's performance, in my opinion, that much more significant. You can't discredit all the work that Taylor did to build up that weight class. In my whole career, there's always just been like Taylor. Like he's just yeah, that guy's gonna you know, he's gonna like be up there. In 2019, there was an opportunity to get him, but I think he just kind of broke away from that. And then obviously injuries in life and had a kid. Um, if Taylor comes back and actually, I know Callie's coming too. Can't count him out. But if Taylor comes back and actually beats 850, like even if Austin out totals that, I think that will be one of the most impressive. Like you had a full time job, you had a kid, you overcame your injuries, you had age as well. But they say you don't get old, you get busy and lazy, right? Or lazy. Busy, that's a Michael Chandler quote, by the way. He says you get busy or, because I think Chandler's 37 also, or 38. I'm not sure. But the point is, if Taylor comes back, if Leah beats, like, smashes her last total, her best total, right? And anytime you have a total that was your best like years ago, and you come back and smash that, that is not easy, man. Because I promise you, the second time it's fucking way harder than the first time, because time does not benefit you that much when you haven't been building on it consistently. So I mean, you need time in the game to get to a high level, but I just think that overcoming life. If Taylor was just a powerlifter, doesn't do anything, doesn't have kids, he's 23 years old. That's different. We're comparing two different things. But also, I think it's okay to like have an era of Taylor and his time came. There's nothing wrong with Taylor, and people always want to compare Taylor to Perkins or Callie to Taylor or whatever. But Taylor had his, that I'm not saying his time is over. I'm just saying he had his time. He had time, right? These young guns, their time must come, and time, like, there will come a time when like Taylor's in his 40s and they might be in their late stages of their prime. You know what I mean? But Taylor's prime was much behind him, and that's just how the game goes. It's not necessarily, oh, I beat you, I'm better than you. It's, no, man, like, life happened. Like, people got older, the game changed, the rules changed, whatever. And those are things that I think about, and I try to not just like judge a lifter's performance based on the number on the paper. I try to think about the circumstances and all the different things that go into it, and I think that's what makes it fun. At the same time, you are going to get those people that are just like, number on paper bigger than number, other number, this number better than that number. But there's like a lot of other things. Like, there can be performances that are impressive that had crazy adversity that they had to overcome versus somebody who just like coasted in and got it done, and you never really know, which one was truly like very, very significant or not. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing, but yeah, it's just to cap it off. I still think Jesus, like, just because it is the biggest weight. Um, I think Jesus number one. I think Perkins is right there. I think Taylor, and I'm taking in many factors. I think Taylor's in there. I think Evie's got to be in there somewhere, and I think Rondell. You could take one of his many performances. I'm trying to think about Ashton and Bob. They're all impressive to me, man. But Rondell's last meet was also really big, and he had a good meet, right? He had like that 9 for 9. There are also meets that are impressive to me that didn't really make a lot of commotion, because I like might be working with the lifter and I know what they had to overcome or whatever. I thought Amanda's performance at Sheffield was crazy. I can't believe she pulled that. Um, you know what I mean? And it's just, there's just so many different things that go into trying to pick and compare, and it's just so hard. But at the end of the day, I think all these lifters coming over is a good thing. I think it's just gonna really like push the IPF even higher. It's gonna really get eyes on the sport. It's good for the sport. I don't care about sides. I really don't. I don't want to pick a side. I just want people to lift where they're happy. And I think more eyes on a meet and the more significant we can make something, the better. And I try to think about my role in this whole thing and like how can I help? And it's just trying to bring out the best of my lifters and try to make these big moments are what fuels me as a coach. These big moments are what I mean, I've had lifters tell me, "Damn, I feel like you care about this more than I do." You know what I mean? And it's just like, nah, I think we both care about it a lot. I just know like what can happen if we really blow it out the water, especially for you. Um, and I really want to make that happen. You know what I mean? I mean, now you can literally get significant amounts of money for just taking records at certain meets, and it's I like that, and I think there's going to be more like mini Sheffields, maybe pop up here and there, that can give like the medium to upper medium level lifters something to shoot for, um, and I'm pretty excited with where the sport is and where it's going, and I hope that people can see what I see and experience what I've experienced, and just understand that like this world is huge. There's a big playground out there, and just kind of open your horizons and don't limit yourself by just your own country.
Rondell is in a situation now. He posted up a magnificent 120 kilo total. As a
Magnificent.
120, 1,045 kilo total is ridiculous. That's
Beautiful.
competitive for the 120 pluses. It is so
Yes.
far ahead of the 120 kilo world record. He specifically weighed in under 120, knowing he wanted to be compared to the rest of the world. He wanted to be compared to the rest of history. He
Big respect
wanted
for
these
that.
comparisons. Yeah, to keep that. I was trying to talk Austin into doing that just for
A lot of
historical
these guys are
purposes.
doing that. A lot of these guys are doing that.
A lot of them are, and I appreciate that. Because, like you said, the future isn't guaranteed. So while you have the opportunity, but it is what it is. So Rondell did that. However, unlike some of these other lifters, he's going to face a year-long suspension and can't just jump over to the IPF side, the PA side. Well, it'd be the IPF for him. So
How old is he?
he's late 20s, free guy. Just having on the podcast. I believe he's, let me take a look. I want to say around 27. Literally just had,
27.
and
27.
so here's the
Yeah, he's
thing.
got time. He's got time. He'll be all right.
Okay, so 26 and 2023. So he's 26. So he's young. But he's only competed 6 times in his whole career, despite being around since 2000, like, well, forever. And he's lost 4 years due to politics. When Trinidad had those
God.
interfighting politics, he could lose another year now. And now he's hot. The momentum is super strong for him. To lose another year, that'd be 5 years of his prime in his 20s. This guy is and he's not, look at, he's not popping for steroids or anything. Like, it's not, it's all political. It's all
Yeah.
political. Unfortunately, he's getting caught in so many political whirlwinds. What do you think he should do here? Does he lose another year, come over to the IPF, make a run for Worlds, make a run for Sheffield, make a run for
Yeah.
history like that?
That's what I think. There's no point.
Yep.
There's no point in saying, what are you gonna do? You're just gonna lift against yourself forever as a guest lifter. Um, it's unfor I mean, I always think about stuff like this, and I'm like, man, the guys at the top gotta see the situation and write a note or something or fix it because it's just not
You,
right.
you do that for one guy, everyone jumps on you saying, look at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
You can't.
But
That's the
but
problem.
if you have a precedent, like this is the first time this has ever happened, then you might be able to do something with that. It's super unfortunate. I think you got to do the time. I think Keenan should do the same thing. At the end of the day, though, if they're happy just kind of where they're at, then to each their own. And I feel like when people say to each their own, they're like, "Good luck to you." Like no, I'm just literally saying whatever makes you happy. If you like doing that, then do it. It's super unfortunate. I don't even know if Keenan's really sweating it. I think Rondell just like from now on, make your clock start from this nationals. You'll be free next year. It'll go by fast, and you can keep training. You can keep making content, and you can go to the meets. You can experience things. Maybe these companies will get him involved in things, and he can have fun with it. So I don't think I don't think there's no just for what like you're gonna extend your clock longer, right? So just come over, do whatever you have to do to come over. At least try it now with everything at stake. There's no reason why he shouldn't be at 2025 Sheffield. There's no reason.
Here's something that
Um,
here's something
go
to
ahead.
add, because context matters to everything. And Rondell made an excellent point. In 2018, when he was a junior and he won Junior Worlds in Calgary, he out totaled the Open. Now, if Rondell never lost 4 years of his prime, then he might have had how many Open World titles? And then,
4 or 5 more for sure.
yeah, and then if he had, because he'd still be racking them up, and then this 1,045 kilo total he did wouldn't just be guest lifter stuff. It'd be at IPF Worlds. It would be the context of it. He's like,
He'd be
what I
cemented
he's
in time.
he could be our Taylor Atwood. When Atwood says you didn't do what I did, he's saying I wasn't allowed to, but I might. Looking at my numbers, it is totally conceivable I could be you. if not for, the political whirlwinds that I got caught up in that I wasn't actually a part of. I could have had your resume. It could be me people are talking about like they talk about you.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. And he's
He's
not
got to
wrong.
get there. He's got to get
And he's
there.
not wrong. In that performance, that 10:45, how much of that 10:45 is overlooked where we could be talking about it like we talk about Perk's performance because he was a guest lifter and all the rest of it. And it just gets overlooked because of that. And Ron, how I feel bad. And if someone wanted to tell me that 10:45 should be in the top 5 list, I also would be like, you know what, you're right as well. That's another performance that I could be talked into as well.
Yeah, honestly, and also I know that at other levels they look at our stuff at our nationals and they see it as local meet. They don't see it as like it's not worlds or whatever, da 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 this and that. You just got to do it where it counts. There are other sports where it doesn't matter what you did if it wasn't at in a game or at the top level. You know what I mean? So I think he just does it. I think that's what he's going to do. I think it makes sense. Um, yeah, I mean that's just kind of what I think on it. What else you got for me?
Well, okay, so we belted off a few. We took a look back at the USAPL Nets, looking forward at the IPF, and these crossovers for the IPF. How we have a huge influx for it. Obviously, Russ is coming over to the IPF as well. What do you think this is going to look like on the PA level, and in terms of how many lifters, world class, that now might not make the IPF World Championships? How much we need people like I've seen, obviously everyone else has seen, SBD is now making money meets at the more regional level within US. NAPF is trying to make a move to become more significant and have more
That
behind that
that
as
that could be
well.
good. That could be good.
It's there's more and more things that are going to be coming, and there's going to be more options than just IPF worlds, and things are in the works to make this happen on different levels because that's the big one is Powerlifting America does not have enough meets, does not have enough meet directors, is not represented all throughout their
It's
US
coming though.
enough.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah.
But that is the piece that probably takes the most time is that kind of infrastructure laid in place. USAPL has been around for decades
Well,
and
you
has
could
meet
also
directors in every single
see
state.
it's not that hard for a USAPL ref to swap over. And if they start
Or a meet
seeing their
director.
yeah, and if they start seeing their number, I'm waiting for them to come out and get like announce their memberships, and I want to see like that dip. We might not see that for a year or two, but once that happens, um, then then we might see meet directors like okay, like I mean, you could also like incentivize people to do that, but I'm just not entirely sure how long that's going to take. Um, sorry, but
No
yeah,
worries.
I think that'll come. Good things take time, as I've been told, and I am not I'm not displeased with the direction things are going, and I still think USAPL for like if you're a collegiate lifter or you're just like kind of getting going, it's fine. Like there's no point in you moving yet, but there will come a time. Um, I just have been around a long time. I've seen other federations come in and out. And unless there is an immense sense of urgency on the USAPL side to really offer an amazing product, a truly amazing product, um, then I think eventually things will just kind of like fall into the IPF side. Because when you're little Johnny, right, and you want to play basketball, you think you're going to go to the NBA one day, right? And that effect is very powerful. And back in the day, kids used to be like, I want to be IPF world champion, help me get there. Somewhere along the way, that kind of like did, faded a little bit. Um, it just I don't know, I don't really know what happened. I think it was just the timing, right? So like for example, right now, IPF doesn't we have Euros coming up, which is good, but we don't have anything like crazy, crazy, crazy world breaking, groundbreaking until Sheffield in February, and then we have PA Nats in March, and it's going to go, 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 go after that. So if USAPL is doing a lot in our, in I say our, I shouldn't say that. In I say our because like all my people are doing that, right? If USAPL is doing a lot when IPF has an off season, and it's not all my people, it's just my top people that want to compete at that level, then kids are going to see that and they're going to sort of go in that direction. And I think months can go by and these newer players, the way social media moves, it's so quick now. They've never experienced anything IPF. They don't even know what it is. If I go to my influencers that I work with, I just go to them and I just like talk to them about like powerlifting and I bring up two federations. They don't know what the hell anything is. That they just know that like whatever's on TikTok. You know what I mean? So it's like that, yeah, exactly. That's influencing a lot too. And that's why I can see like this sort of like, all right, I get what's going on here, but these kids don't know, so you kind of have to tell them, or show them, and we can't show them until the time comes, and the time is coming. We just gotta wait. So I think I think things are gonna be interesting. I think things are gonna get bigger and better. I was so happy at Worlds, man. When I was at Worlds, I'm looking at the production on the right where I was sitting, and I'm seeing you guys up there and everything that was going on. And it's like this thing that I care about so much is finally getting its recognition. It's finally getting the support from like TV and like bigger entities to just create this really special product. Um, and it made me be like, yup, this is where we need to be. This is what we need to be doing. And this is where the future's at. So again, I still hate that the split happened. I hate it. I don't like it. I wish it never happened. But I think, they say masters or the best in their field will all end up in the same place. And I think that's going to happen. I think everybody's going to come together at those high levels. And, I'm hoping that that brings more um, camaraderie, more unity, more support. US is very weird. We compete against each other a lot. Um, Whereas like other countries really support themselves. Like if you're at Sheffield and you see a French lifter go out, they are screaming for them. They are screaming for them. Um,
Well, they got some drama in
it's
France, man. Don't get yourself.
no,
I'm not gonna bring it up. But they got some
yeah,
they got some
I've heard
drama. They
I've
got
heard
some
some
beef.
stuff. But at the end of the day though, like at the end of the day, you have to like anybody that runs the gauntlet and meets me, you know, like and meets us in the other side of the world, I gotta have some respect for that, right? You did it. You did what you had to do. You went through it. You experienced it, and you can't hate on that. So it's like in football. Like I'm gonna hate them for this game, but I respect the work that they put in. If they're a good player, I'm like, damn man, this guy's respect, So yeah, I think the sport is better with us together than split.
Let me ask you this. And I'll let you go soon. It's actually Canadian Thanksgiving over here in Canada. We're about
Oh
a month
shit,
before
really?
6. Yeah, yeah. I'm splitting in briefly to
You
meet up
guys
for
eat
Fan Jam,
turkey?
but oh yeah, yeah, exact same as you
Pumpkin
guys.
pie? Oh
Can
shit.
I tell you what, man? I celebrate both. I squeeze in both Thanksgivings, my man, to get to capitalize on my turkey, ham,
That's
whatever
my
the heck.
favorite holiday. Yeah.
But uh, Russ had released a video not long ago saying, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, I think you guys got me fucked up. If you think I'm an 850 lifter, you're wrong. If you think I'm an 860 lifter, you're wrong. If you think I'm 870, you're probably wrong. And yes, he's talking about as an 83. What sparked
Let me
this?
add some
Was it the
numbers.
Perkins attention and all the hoopla about, oh my God, Perk out totaled the 83s? And how fired up is Russ to get back onto the platform now and unveil what he's got?
I just added up some numbers and like I don't even like if he hits 2,000, don't be surprised. At 83, okay. Let me roll back. I think at 93 he can absolutely. I even took some off the top. I think he could hit 907.5, 100%. Full big Russ, 9 for 9 meet. There's no doubt in my mind he can do that, right? And beyond, who knows? He continues to impress. I sandbag the shit out of some of his lists, right? Going to 83, he might hit like an 875, 880. Like I would not be surprised. Like if he does that. Here, let me ask you this. If Russ hits 880 at 83, think about that. But Perkins is 865 at 74. What are they both? They're both insane. But what are we doing here? Like what are you thinking about? Are you like, wow, these guys are pushing the sport to a new level, or you're like, wow, Perkins or wow, Russ?
Okay. If Russ, first off, if Russ hits 880, oh my God, as an 83, that's crazy.
What more do you want? What more
That's
do you
where you
want?
that's where you start talking about now he's entered the all-time top 5 performances as well. And that list is going to get rewritten a million times.
Yeah.
But if he could do 907 as a 93, again, what are we talking about though? He also, so here's my follow-up question to this, because it would behoove him to go 83, attempt to win PA Nats, attempt to win Worlds, and then attempt to win Sheffield. And you try to win Worlds without pushing the world record too much, and then go all out full send at Sheffield, obviously, and collect the massive bag if possible. And then after that, and then there's that's a World Games year. And if he
Yeah.
goes to the World Games, there's that whole experience. He'd probably go 83 again as World Games. And then, or do you think
Move up.
is that what you're thinking?
Is that what you're
Because
asking me? No,
yeah,
I think
yeah,
we gotta go. No, so if we do this Worlds coming up, we have to do that for the World Games. And then after that, I mean, he might be
we got
wanting to
Sheffield
settle
the next
down.
year.
He might be wanting to like have a kid. I don't know if what's going on with him in life. If he wants to do that, then it'll probably be a little bit easier for us to stay bigger. In which case, yeah, then we can move up and we can go for goals there. But we have to make it so like when he leaves the 83s, that's gonna be there for a long time. You know what I mean? Like, and I think, if things weren't perfect and he hit an 870, I'd be cool with that. I'd be a little bit upset deep down, but I'd be like, no, like I will have a better answer for you. Um, maybe in like January, because then his weight is gonna be like really close, and we're probably just gonna be coasting, and
What
then
is
I
his
can be
weight right
more.
now? Do you know? That's a
He
question that gets
usually
brought up.
he sits like high 190s. But I mean he is like it's just a switch. He just turns the switch on, and then like in 2 weeks he's like shredded, and I'm like I'm like, what's your weight? He's like, oh, I'm at cutting range. I'm at 189, and I'm like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Um, and the way we cut is a very like just going to sauna. Like he's just really good at that. Like I don't know, like he knows his body really well. We've done so many cuts together. He knows what he likes after weigh-ins. And what's interesting is like he always gets his legs under him after he cuts. He might like from my view, it's like the nationals he competed, where he cut weight and he was like injured. He like hit a little bit more than what I thought he was gonna hit. Or I think at my range, I top end, I had him around like 700, and we ended up doing I think like 705 or 711. Um, but I always have an open mind, like I'm projecting something, but I'm prepared to go above it or below it. I'm never just like, no, this is it. You can't have a closed mind in this game like ever, because there's going to be athletes that exceed or fall short of where you put them sometimes. Um, but he always gets his legs under him, and the squat is a big percentage of his total. And by deadlift, you already got your weight back. So I think him being able to cut weight and still keep his squat is like huge, like super super huge. I also feel like, yeah, I don't know. He's just done it so many times. It's going to be really good. I think there's a lot of guys that um Jamar Royster. I would like to see him move up and try PA or not, whatever he wants. But I just want to try to see him move up because I feel like he could hit really, really good numbers. Um, that would like put him possibly in a conversation to like spice things up with that class. 93 is already really popular class, and talking about Russ, they have big squats, right? I think it'll be cool to see him go up and just have fun with it. And I always tell people I never really started having fun with lifting. Ah, I had a lot of fun when I stopped cutting.
Mhm.
I had a lot of fun when I stopped cutting. Um, and I think a lot of these guys might realize, shit, I should have moved up a while ago. This is where like they're just gonna become like you might be top five right now, but when you move up, you might be like top zero, like top like beyond first. Like you pass everybody. So that's worth exploring. Um, we'll see what Petrie does as well. It's gonna be cool to see him move up. I think though we're gonna get to a point where I just think guys are gonna have to like if you think of the UFC, does anybody not cut weight? No.
Very few, very few.
I don't know anybody that doesn't cut because you're at a huge disadvantage in there against a guy who's got 20 pounds on you, right? I think we're gonna get to that point in lifting. Right now, you have some guys that I think it only makes sense. Guys, hear me out. A Bob Matthews that competes at 120 but walks around at like 125, 126, masters the cut and reaches his like like he is the biggest he can possibly be on the platform and makes the class without suffering like ruining performance. I think eventually the sport is going to get to that point where like you're going to have to do that. Like they're just going to it's going to squeeze so much like the it squeezes so much out of you to everything has to be you have to know how to cut, you have to know how to train, you have to know how to taper, you have to know how to peak, you can't overthink, you got to do everything, everything's going to have to be perfect because the sport is getting there. It might take 10 years to get there, right? And you might still have a freak who doesn't cut who blasts everybody. um we might look back at the world champions that we have now in 10 years and we might say I remember when I thought 850 at 74 was impressive. And now there's like five guys doing it. I know it sounds fucking crazy, right? But let's roll back 10 years. Let's roll back
Well,
10
except
years.
except for Jesse Norris, you're
Except for
100%
Jesse
right.
Norris. But in the other weight classes, bro, 1515 was the winning total for the 83s in like 2014 pounds. I know it sounds absurd, but we'll see. And I'd be curious. I know Eric Helms, you had him on here. If you ever think of a reason for me and him to be on the pod together, I'd love to
Yeah, dude,
mess with
we we
yeah,
do
do that a
we
little
do
bit.
pods all the time. We'll,
He
yeah.
he's an OG and I know you you're he's like an era before me and you're like the era between me and him, right? Like just our age, right?
Well,
And
I was
he
powerlifting in 2008. I just wasn't in the media side.
so you might be his era as well. You might be his era as well. But he's been a bodybuilder and he's been in the industry and he's seen like just bodies and weights and how things change and science progresses. I would be interested to ask him his perspective on what, seeing the talent back then and what the talent is now, and are people just getting? I'm sure it's a combination of things, but what he thinks about that. I think the sport's just becoming more prominent. Like in the NFL, you think of guys like back in the day that have like crazy records that like seem impossible to break. And now there's like a lot of more talented guys now, but some of those records still stand out because football's been around a long time.
Let
And
me say
powerlifting
something.
is kind of new.
Let me
Go
jump
ahead.
in one note because this is actually something I wanted to discuss. Or it just when I was talking about the top five all time performances, and people were bringing up John Hack a lot, and I mean, 100%
Versus
he's in the
Gibbs,
conversation.
or are you
But
talking
what
about like untested?
well, just period. Well, versus Gibbs, I had him in versus Gibbs. I
Yeah,
loved that performance and what that he
it
was
was
miles
insane.
ahead. Both of them pushed each other the whole night. But people often say Hack out totaled world records on the untested side, like two weight classes up. And they're like, who else has done that in all of powerlifting? And my only pushback to that particular argument is the depth of competition in the untested side is not even remotely
Hmm.
close to the tested side. There's so many more lifters in the tested side that to do a feat like out totaling two weight classes up is a lot more difficult. And we know that because history has taught us this with exactly your point. As you go back in time, and there are far fewer lifters at the world level, national level, etc., you see the talent isn't as big. So Hawk is 100% special. I call the guy the GOAT all the time for a reason. He's definitely in that conversation as well.
If you just want to look at like
It's
the body of work as a whole, I mean, he did the IPF route, did that, and then graduated to something else.
yeah,
So you know,
and that's what I like that he won a world title and did it against Brett Gibbs, no less, in
yeah,
a super close battle. That solidifies him to remove some of the other caveats. But all I'm saying is when people do mention just the fact he's beating people two weight classes up, it's got to be said that side of powerlifting is nowhere near as competitive and dense of a
I think it would
talent
be
pool.
extremely hard. Like, is it impossible for Perkins to total 890? I want to say I'm not
90?
sure. No, 890.
That's
Because then
crazy.
he'd be out totaling the 93s.
Man, that's crazy.
But
I don't know, maybe.
you know what's crazy is like if you could go to a machine or like a crystal ball and it'd be like, I will tell you your future right now with the most you're gonna total. And for all we know for Perkins, his maximum might be like whatever he has on top of this meat if he were to go all out and he like never gets above that. We don't know. We fucking don't know. I would like to think no, that he could continue to push the limit, but there you got to think there's probably a point where your body is going to be like you're done. You know what I mean? We don't know when that's going to be, or you're done unless you move up. Because now you're lifting weights where your body's going to start breaking until you become more durable, and that's probably going to be the class up. So I don't know. I don't know. He might be there. It might not happen till later, but that's like an interesting thing that I think about. Um, I never say never. I think anybody could do anything because I've seen it. I've like I thought like when I got Jesus, I was like, I think he can get up there with Ray one day. I didn't know it was going to happen that quickly. Um, and I didn't know that you just don't know, right? Like there's so many things that go into it. I had belief in him. I knew that he could. I just didn't know when. We did it pretty quickly. We relatively low injuries. Um, Russ has continued to improve since for the last 6 years, and it doesn't seem like he's slowing down. So it's just one of those things that you never want to say never because I mean, look at the guys that accuse people of using, right? They have this mindset of there is no way you can be lifting XYZ unless you are on something because of the prior standards. Well, people are getting better all the time. So you can't
My
say
friend,
that, you know?
the reason why guys in the untested are being bested and out total in some divisions by guys in the tested and women in the tested is because the talent pool is so much deeper in the tested that they have. When people say, how is it possible these people are outlifting people with performance enhancing drugs? It's because the talent pool is so much deeper. They have
Yeah.
more outliers within it. This is easy. This is stats. That is the case. I
Yeah,
go
but you
back
see
to
it
it a
in the
couple times
comments.
because,
It doesn't go away, man. It's always there in the
yeah.
comments, and you're just like, man, like I think you're just kind of numb to it now. It's like, oh yeah, another one of those guys. You know what I mean? Like it's funny to me, but I also think that there are people, maybe the older generations, that perpetuate this like mindset of this is impossible unless XYZ. Now in bodybuilding is different. He'll probably like I don't know if we'll ever see a natural guy get that big, right? That's really different, but strength is like strength is weird because it doesn't. You would think if you had a natural guy and you just put him on something, he would lift more.
He
Um,
probably would. It's just they're not taking that path. What I'm saying is
yeah,
the talent pool has chosen the pathway, like the IPF route, USAPL, was far bigger,
yeah,
more opportunities.
yeah.
So they've chosen that. They all would. Look, if you put Perk on PEDs, he's going to go into the 900 kilo range. It's just
Yes.
these guys are choosing the natty route because there's far more opportunities.
Well,
Even like,
it wasn't like
you
that
know,
though. It wasn't always like that.
no, but it is now. Even now, like, who are the number one untested people? You got Hack that you can say at the top of your
Hack.
head, but there's so few stars over there because nobody's really the people aren't watching as much. The IPF, Sheffield, USAPL
Too
to
much
like
risk.
obviously the views are much less, but it's a far bigger avenue and pathway. So far more people around the world globally are taking that route. Far more outliers are going to pop up on that end. It's
Yeah,
that's all it is.
I've heard people say things like people follow people, not feds. I've also heard people say things like people are expendable to the Fed. If the most popular powerlifter in the world is a tested drug-free lifter, that is probably going to have the most influence, right?
I think
You
both
know what I
those
mean?
comments you said are true. What it
Yeah.
is people overestimate what one particular influencer might be to a Fed, where the Fed, if it's global like the IPF, we already seen the infrastructure in place with 120 nations, the IOC recognition, everything we've already talked about, everything in place that's in place. One guy or girl can't shift that, can't change that. It's just too much. There's too much in place. There's too many things in place. On the flip side, one guy or
Look at
girl
Ronda
can have a
Rousey.
massive one guy or girl can have a massive reach. What about Ronda Rousey? Sorry.
No, I was saying look at Ronda Rousey. I mean, I do think Russ coming in definitely changed powerlifting. I definitely think it did. I
Sure, but
think
him not being in the IPF had the biggest growth, and
yes, yes,
it
yes,
didn't.
yes.
Well, that's all I'm saying. So that's why I mean when I said both are true.
So it is
Russ is a
yes.
massive influence. He's a massive plus, and him coming back is huge, dude. Everyone knows I'm all over Russ. On the flip side, Russ was gone, and the IPF has been murdering it, and will continue to murder it regardless. So both are true at the same time. It's I don't think they even conflict against each other.
Yeah, and at this last Worlds, I know that. I know the platform of the IPF and how significant it is. And there were some people in high places that I got to meet and shake hands with and made me feel appreciated. And that is something that I rarely experience from the organization. And it made me, it felt good, man. It felt good. And I was like, man, like they recognize, all the hard work and they know that, um, you know, dude, when I was at Sheffield, I felt like this is incredible. This is amazing. And I have my family there, all my boys there, all my lifters there, my top lifters there. Not all of them, but like the ones that chose that route. But someone's missing. And it just felt weird that on that stage he wasn't there for that. It didn't feel right. This is made for him. This is like this is what he does. This is what he's built for. And I just felt like it was the one of the best weekends of my life, but we're gonna make it right, and we got to get him there because that charisma with that crowd and that performance, um,
Gonna be different.
fuck, it's gonna be
2024 is going to be different.
it's
So
gonna
is
be different,
2023.
man. 2020,
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be. We're gonna do this Sheffield coming up. nationals for us, PA is going to be that is going to have so many implications for the future. That meet March 13th and 14th. This is going to decide who's going to go to Worlds, who's going to get in the World Games. Like, so
The
the
meat grinder.
future, everything is going to be. And what's fucking crazy is we might have top world level guys that, like, that could be like they don't really do anything beyond that. You know what I mean? Like, they just,
Yes, they will. So
they're
listen.
gatekept.
Let me put a pin in this. They won't go to Worlds, but there is other things that's going to pop up for them.
Yeah.
Things are in place, and I need to stress that because some people are worried. And this is not going unnoticed by those within the federations.
Yeah.
And the PA Nats is going to be a meat grinder. It's a battlefield. There's so many world class people, and you're right. A lot of these world class people will not make a world team. There is going to be other options in place on the PA side and even IPF side, international, etc. So, but again, it's so early days. All the infrastructure isn't in place. It takes a little bit of time, but believe me when I tell you, people are aware in the background and laying things into place, and there's more and more options. So don't worry about that. And
Never
you will have
mind.
if
Never
you don't make a
mind.
world, if you don't make a world team, all is not lost. You got options.
Love that.
But
Love that.
listen, man, I think this is a good point to put a conclusion on this. The future is bright.
Yes.
2024 is going to be flipping amazing. 2025 is going to be World Games and another Sheffield and another Worlds. The next 2 years, my dude, are going to be phenomenal. I'm not sure when the next time I'm going to see you is. Probably relatively soon. I can't make announcements where I'm going to be next
Um.
because
Yeah.
don't say it if you already know, but
I know
because
nothing. I
some
know nothing.
announcements have to. So, okay, I know you know stuff, but some announcements have to be made officially.
To be
So I'll
honest,
wait.
I'm gonna probably be laying. Of course, if you want to do anything, I'm down. But I'll probably be laying low in terms of, I'm not really gonna have anyone doing anything huge until, early next year. My health will be better. The team will be ready and fired up and ready to compete. Nationals is right around the corner. I am interested to see the people that are doing Sheffield. I hope will not have to do nationals, and I hope that their total will stand as, somewhat of a target for people at nationals to have to shoot for, because it'll be very difficult to go all out at Sheffield and have to go all out a month or so later. So that's something I'm waiting to hear on. Um, Nationals will still be very significant. I will be there, of course. I'm gonna try to be more involved in, like, developing, like, the kids. Like, so I want to go to junior nets. I want to go to junior worlds, um, and just really, like, help that, because that's the that's like the next generation. Um, so it's gonna be good, man. There's a lot of, like, IPF activities to partake in. I just need to put myself in a position to be able to be there. And are you going back to Malta next year for that
Which one's Malta? Which
Junior
championship?
Worlds?
Is this so? Juniors will depend on my day job vacation days.
Okay, okay,
I'll
okay.
be so I can't necessarily say yet.
Lithuania for
Obviously,
sure.
open world, one I'm never gonna miss. Sheffield, PA
Yeah,
Nats, open worlds. Like I work closely with SBD for their events, so obviously
yeah,
SBD is doing PA Nats and
mhm,
obviously Sheffield,
yeah,
and then open worlds. Man, you would have to put a bullet in me to make me
yeah,
miss. So and then everything else, I got to press and beg, borrow, steal, but I'm gonna try to
yeah.
make it work. I hate missing championships, but
Hey,
it's
no
tough,
worries,
dog.
man.
It's tough, my man. But listen, I'm thankful that you came on the podcast. Yeah, let's keep in touch. If you want to do a podcast with Eric Helms, 100%, let's do a collaborative. We could do
Yeah, if you guys
we'll
got
organize
whatever you
we'll
want.
organize a topic. Yeah, we'll do a whether it's a historical one, a look back, 5 favorite moments from each of us, and we just tell a story each with some clips and everything. I'll get
Hmm.
you tell me what ones you choose. I post up some clips, whatever the shit. We'll figure something out. But
Yeah.
we'll keep in touch, and I'll see you when I see you. Yeah, because I'll be around real soon, and we'll wait until certain people announce certain things. But
Yeah.
and there it is, man. So we'll talk in the DMs, my friend. Thank you. I'm
Yep, yep.
grateful for you coming on as per
Appreciate you,
usual.
man.
And
Yeah.
everybody listening, please do subscribe, give us high ratings. And until next time, six pack Lapadat,
Later.
six up, and we are out.